I used to work an early shift and normally I would leave my apartment around 4 a.m. to start work by 5. I used to live in a lovely apartment on the 5th floor overlooking the river. It was my very first apartment. I loved it. I was there for just a little over 6 months. I had fully settled in, having come to know the area well, and was enjoying the feelings of independence and self-sufficiency. I had moved away from home for the first time. I would go for regular walks along the river after work, sometimes with friends, sometimes by myself. I always felt safe and secure there, but what I didn't realize was that I was being stalked. Early one morning, it was quiet as usual as I took the lift down to the underground car park on my way to work like I always do. When I got out of the lift, I felt this strange, uncomfortable feeling like somehow I was not alone. There was like another presence in the car park. I shrugged off the feeling, but all the same, I quickly walked to my car and got in. The car park was large and not all that well lit. It was full of cars as always, but at that hour of the morning, there was no one about. A fleeting movement in the mirror caught my eye. I saw this shadowy figure in a hooded jacket ducking between cars, moving from car to car. At first, I thought it was a car thief, but then I realized that he was looking in my direction. My heart began to race. Somehow, I managed to lock the doors just as he reached the passenger's side of my car, but the locked door didn't deter him. He started knocking on the glass, saying he only wanted to talk to me and that he needed my help. I tried to start my car. He then started thumping hard on the glass. I froze. I started shaking. My heart was pounding so hard, I didn't know what to do. I tried to start the car, but the engine just turned over and over. He started banging the glass harder. He moved over to my side and started using his fist on the windscreen again and again as hard as he could. He started slamming on the bonnet and kicking the door. He was cursing and swearing as he demanded I open the door. I was terrified. I kept trying to start the car. I knew I had to depend on myself. Then I saw him take out a baseball bat from under his jacket. I blew the horn several times. He then started pounding at my side glass with the bat as he was getting more desperate. I was shaking all over, but I kept trying to start the car, wishing with all my might for it to start. It seemed like an eternity. Then, suddenly, the car started. In a blind panic, I drove out of the car park as fast as I dared. I knew I hit the car next to me, and I'm sure I must have injured him as I saw him lying on the ground as I raced away. He was curled up holding his leg to him. Shaken but alive, I drove to a friend's place nearby. She called the police for me. Even though they got to the apartments as quickly as they did, they could not find my attacker. Lucky for him, I guess I had not done too much damage to him as he was able to get away. The police were very good. They did a thorough investigation and he was arrested a few days later from the footage of the security cameras. He had a police record. Later, I had to identify him from a police lineup. Even though I really didn't want to do this at first, as I never wanted to see his face again, it was easy for me. I can never forget that horrible face yelling and banging the windscreen even today. Sometimes I still get flashbacks of his hooded face. He was sent to prison, but my life changed forever. I never went back to my apartment. My parents packed and moved my things for me. I moved back to my parents' place. I was a nervous wreck at first. For a long time, I suffered from a disturbed sleep. I would have nightmares. I would wake up in a sweat. I would get flashbacks of the event, especially when I was alone. I would jump at the slightest of sounds. I found it very hard to get out of bed in the mornings. It was the most difficult period of my life. At first, I could not even go near my car. It was a long time before I was able to drive by myself again. My parents were very understanding, and so was my boss at work, who gave me extended leave and changed my shift. I returned to work, but my father drove me to work every day for many months. But then I saw the huge burden it was for him. I started to drive while he sat beside me at first, and now, with the help of my counselor, I can drive by myself again. I began attending counseling sessions on the advice of my family doctor. After many confusing and painful sessions, I slowly began to put my life back together. I eventually got another place to live and tried to put myself on track. For a long time, I could not go out if it was dark. I would only go out with friends for lunch or coffee. I am okay now, but I still try to look for a street park rather than a car park, especially after dark and especially if I'm driving on my own. Undercover car parks at night would make me panicky and very vigilant. I would start to hyperventilate and get agitated and tremble. I would get disoriented and confused. As soon as I entered an underground car park, even it was with friends, I would freeze with that sixth sense sort of feeling, like someone was behind me watching my every move. I would constantly look over my shoulder. Many of my friends could not understand my feelings or behavior. So at first, I would avoid going out if I felt it was not right for me. But the isolation didn't help me either. It was tough, really tough, but I did overcome it with help from a very patient and supportive counselor. Talking about it over and over helped me overcome my fear. Each time my counselor made me talk about it, she helped me make the impact of the incident smaller and smaller, till eventually it was so remote I was free to start living again. I now understand that this was a one-off situation and that it is highly unlikely to happen again, a bit like winning lotto twice. But of course, it is not like lotto at all, but a nightmare, a living nightmare that I have had to try very hard to overcome. Even though I have come to terms with it, I know the scar and the scare will remain with me for a long time yet. The world has become a different place for me. It's no longer that innocent place I thought it was. I guess I have grown up faster than all of my friends. I am a lot more realistic now. I know what it is like to walk through a minefield.